It begins with a thought that might keep you up at night, the staggering truth that an entire hospital, meant to be a refuge for healing, became a conduit for betrayal. What happens when the health system meant to protect the vulnerable is instead weaponized against them by those sworn to serve? This is the story of Tembisa Hospital, a place where corruption festered, lives were broken, and a brave whistleblower paid the ultimate price. It's a story that cuts deep into the soul of a nation. We'll unfold the layers of this crisis, not in cold statistics, but through the human stories behind the headlines. The narrative starts with BabitaDeokaran, a principal chief accountant in the Gauteng Health Department. In the weeks before her death on August 23, 2021, she exposed irregularities totaling $850 million in fraudulent tenders at Tembisa Hospital. Her meticulously compiled forensic report spotlighted 227 companies connected to suspicious deals. Tragically, mere days after sounding alarms, she was gunned down outside her home. Her assassination a grim testament to the price of truth. But why did she become a target? Because entrenched systems of exploitation were exposed. Investigations revealed that 5 companies she flagged received more than $1 billion in irregular contracts from January 2020 to October 2022. At the top was Dr. Stefan Govindraju, who bagged around $436 million. Close behind, the Maumela family, Hangwani Morgan Maumela, a relative of President Ramaphosa, who received over $336 million. Equally suspicious was ANC Ekorhuleni Treasurer General Sello Sekhokho, who received $1.7 million in tenders. After Babita's death, the Special Investigating Unit delved deeper. They uncovered a massive fraud network involving 5,500 dodgy transactions, a jaw-dropping $3 billion in illicit movement via letterbox accounts. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi confirmed that these firms exploited loopholes while the hospital's CEO, Ashley Mthunzi, signed off on illegal bids, all under the nose of weak oversight. In August 2023, President Ramaphosa authorized an SIU probe into the $1 billion scheme, specifically empowering investigators to subpoena financial records, freeze assets, and even go after pensions of implicated officials. By then, disciplinary action had been taken against 9 officials, 3 resigned, 6 were suspended. Yet frustration remains that those truly responsible have yet to face justice, even as calls for accountability grow louder. This scandal isn't just about money, it's about the erosion of trust and the cost to human lives. Patients in dire need of care couldn't get it. Healthcare workers saw their efforts undermined. Babita risked and lost her life to try and stop it. Her story is not only one of tragedy, but of courage. To understand why this scandal resonates so deeply, we need to take a step back. South Africa has endured decades of corruption scandals, from the arms deal in the late 1990s to state capture under Jacob Zuma, where billions were looted from state-owned enterprises like Eskom and Transnet. But while those scandals often feel distant, involving large companies or abstract institutions, what happened at Tembisa Hospital hit people in the most intimate way, at the place they turn to when their loved ones are sick, when they are vulnerable and desperate. It is one thing for corruption to drain public funds from energy projects or rail contracts. It is another for it to directly rob a hospital of resources, leaving patients without medicine, equipment, or even basic care. This is why the Tembisa scandal carries such emotional weight. It strikes at the heart of what it means to have dignity and access to life-saving healthcare. The people implicated are not faceless bureaucrats. They are politically connected figures with influence, wealth, and networks that stretch into the highest offices of government. When names like Matlala, Morgan Maumela, and Sello Sekhokho are mentioned, we're not just speaking of businessmen chasing profit. We're speaking of individuals who allegedly turned public hospitals into their personal cash cows, all while ordinary South Africans queued in overcrowded clinics, sometimes waiting hours for treatment that was not available because the money had been stolen. One of the most shocking aspects of this case is how brazen it all was. Companies were registered to supply everything from medical equipment to groceries, often charging inflated prices that made no sense. There were contracts for hundreds of thousands of rands to supply items as basic as bread, gloves, or bandages. In some cases, companies that had no track record in healthcare were suddenly winning tenders worth millions. The scale of the grift suggests not just opportunism, but a well-organized system where insiders manipulated procurement to enrich themselves at the expense of the sick. And then there is BabitaDeokaran herself. She was not a politician. She was not an activist with a public platform. She was simply a civil servant, a mother, someone doing her job with integrity in a system that often punishes honesty. Her colleagues describe her as dedicated, principled, and meticulous. She kept files, documented transactions, and refused to turn a blind eye. In the final weeks of her life, she confided to friends that she feared for her safety. She knew the danger she was in. Yet she pressed on, unwilling to betray her conscience. The decision to silence her with bullets speaks volumes about how high the stakes were for those benefiting from the corruption. The broader question South Africans are asking is, how did we get here? Why does it seem that corruption is not the exception but the rule? Part of the answer lies in weak oversight and political interference. Institutions tasked with guarding public money are often undermined by the very politicians who benefit from the rot. The whistleblower system is weak, and protections for people like Babita are often inadequate. Even when evidence surfaces, prosecutions are slow, and powerful people escape accountability, while lower-level operatives take the fall. This creates a culture of impunity where looting feels safe and honesty feels dangerous. Yet there are glimmers of hope. The SIU's investigation, though late, is an important step. Civil society, the media, and ordinary citizens are keeping the spotlight on this scandal. Every anniversary of Babita's death has been marked with renewed calls for justice. Her name has become a rallying cry for accountability in South Africa's broken healthcare system. And perhaps most importantly, the exposure of this network has made it harder for the guilty to hide. Let this story be more than a tale of scandal. Let it reflect our capacity to demand better, to protect those with the courage to speak up, and to insist that a hospital exists to heal, not to bleed resources from the most vulnerable. Babita's legacy is a reminder that one person's bravery can shake an entire system, even if it costs them everything. Subscribe to stay updated on justice in action. Share your thoughts below. Your voice matters in the fight for a system true to its purpose.